In today's lesson, we'll learn how to define project activities. Activities are the specific actions through which project objectives are implemented and impact is achieved. They answer the question, what exactly will we do to deliver the results? Because activities are specific and time-bound, they can also be tracked and measured through outputs and indicators. First, it is important that the activities in our project are logically linked to its specific objectives, and, second, that they lead to achievable, measurable results. Third, in order to implement the activities effectively, it is essential to develop a clear action plan. The activities form the basis for the schedules, the resources, and the overall control of the project. The activities in a project can be independent, or they can be grouped into work packages that correspond to the project objectives. This depends on the complexity of the project and the resources it requires. Their formulation must also follow the application guidelines of the funding procedure. That is why it is important to become well acquainted with these guidelines before you start preparing the project. The requirement is that the activities, just like the objectives, should be specific, measurable, realistic, and linked to a clearly designated person in charge. Each activity should answer 6 key questions. What needs to be done? Why is it important? How will it be carried out? How long will it take, and what resources does it require? Where will it take place? And who will be responsible for its implementation? The answers to these questions ensure clarity, good planning, and effectiveness. The activities in a project are not isolated from one another. They are usually connected. The implementation of one activity often depends on another. For example, we cannot test software before we have developed it. Understanding and managing these dependencies is critical for keeping the schedule on track and achieving results on time. In other words, the activities are interdependent. A delay or failure in a single activity can trigger a negative effect on the entire project. To avoid this, we use dependency diagrams, monitor and control the implementation of each activity, and allocate resources appropriately. These kinds of actions help ensure the quality of the project. Tracking dependencies is part of risk management. Let's see how activities depend on one another in a digital skills training project. The first activity in the project is the starting point, and all the others are built on it. The content of the training materials depends on the results of the training needs assessment. The training seminars and the development of the platform depend on the survey carried out under the first activity and on the development of the training materials under the second activity. We can see that the fifth activity cannot take place without the completion of all previous ones, a typical example of a complex dependency. There are 4 main types of dependencies. Finish to start, where an activity can begin only after another one has been completed. Finish to finish, where 2 tasks must be completed at the same time. Start to start, where activities start in parallel. And start to finish, which is less common but also possible, when an activity can finish only after another one has started. These dependencies are used in Gantt charts and network diagrams. Each activity is linked to resources, which must be described and well justified already at the project preparation stage. For an activity to be successfully implemented, it needs to have these resources available. Resources can be technical, financial, human, logistical, construction-related, and others. A lack of planned resources leads to a risk of failure or delay. That is why the link between each activity and its resources must be clearly documented and justified when preparing the project proposal. Let us now clarify the different types of resources. First, there are the technical resources, which may include platforms, equipment, software, or other tools needed to carry out specific tasks. Next come the financial resources. They cover the entire budget, including salaries, fees, renovation costs, supplies, and services. Third, there are the human resources. These are the people who carry out the activities as experts, coordinators, and trainers. Fourth, there are the logistical resources. They provide transport, communication, suitable premises, and technical support. And last but not least, the construction resources. These are included in investment or infrastructure projects and cover materials, equipment, and construction teams. Most European Union programs require certain types of activities to be included in the project, such as management, publicity, evaluation, and monitoring. These are often mandatory elements and carry weight in the assessment. For example, the beneficiaries of EU funding are obliged to ensure publicity for the project. This means proposing measures to promote the role and financial contribution of the European Union, as well as making information about the operations and programs accessible to the wider public. These measures do not concern only the target groups. They are aimed at society as a whole. The ways of dissemination of the results must be described in detail in the project proposal. Failure to comply with the publicity requirements may lead to financial sanctions. The relevant provisions are usually set out in the annexes to the application package or in specific guidelines. The aim is to guarantee transparency of EU funding and visibility of the results achieved. Often, a description of the measures for multiplying the results among other stakeholders is also required. That is why, before we start the project's communication activities, we should carefully review the visual identity guidelines provided by each EU program. They describe how publications, materials, and visual communication should look. Usually, this includes precise requirements for the use of the European Union logo, the program logo, specific colors, fonts, standard wording, and links. Failure to comply with these requirements may be treated as non-compliance with the grant agreement. Using the logical framework tool is essential in project management. It provides a logical, consistent, and measurable structure for our project. The logical framework is a table with 5 rows and 5 columns. It is a concise and clear version of our entire project. The matrix presents the main elements of the project in one place. It also visually shows the questions our project asks and how it answers them, what we want to achieve, how we will do it, how we will measure success, and what the implementation of the project activities depends on. Each row represents a different level of the project logic, from the overall vision to the specific activities. Each column provides information on how success will be measured, what will confirm it, and what the key external factors for success are. Means of verification in the logical framework are the way we prove that a given result has been achieved. In other words, if we claim that 10 people have completed a training course, we must provide reliable evidence for this. These can be certificates of participation, feedback forms, photos from events, or administrative and digital databases. It is important that these sources are easily accessible, accurate, and stored in a way that allows verification by external parties, including auditors or representatives of the funding body. Well-chosen means of verification not only protect our project during evaluation, but also demonstrate transparency and professionalism. This is why, already at the planning stage, we should think about how we will collect and store the necessary data. Assumptions and risks in the logical framework are external factors we cannot fully control, but strongly influence the project's success. They are linked to the opportunities and threats identified in the SWOT analysis of our project. These are the conditions in the environment in which we work. For example, whether the target group will show interest, whether we will receive timely support from the local administration, or whether we will be able to find suitable trainers and experts. If a key assumption is not fulfilled, such as the active participation of young people in the trainings, even the best project design may turn out to be ineffective. That is why, already at the planning stage, potential risks should be identified and possible mitigation measures considered. The logical framework is not only a tool that helps us plan better, but also one that enables us to achieve real impact on the target groups through our project.